Hi, I'm Bob Martin. Welcome to another one of our Dreams from the Presidio Theatre. Our guest today is Charlton Lee, who's with the Sol Quartet, a wonderful string quartet in San Francisco that features the work of living composers and a range of cultural perspectives. They look at the intersection of place and culture with the music that they do. It's innovative, it's exciting, and I'm so pleased that Charlton could join us today and talk a little bit about his thoughts, his dreams, and the work that this the wonderful quartet does. Hi, Charlton. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Bob. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's I want to thank the Presidio and you and your whole team over there for uh, giving me this opportunity. Unfortunately, in lieu of having a real concert, but I think being able to talk a little bit about our group and our organization is a real honor for us. I mean, in terms of dreams, obviously, in light of what is happening right now, I'd love to see some um, open dialogue in a way that people can come together and really talk about the issues that we're addressing in terms of race, and the issues run very deep. But if there's a way that we can find to get together and be able to talk to each other and to listen, more importantly, to each other, I think that is something for us as artists, which is so important. The idea that we can bring arts to our audiences in a way that might engage them, in a way to think about things, to hear things in a different way, and hopefully spark a dialogue.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm wondering what is some of the work that you're working on that does have to deal with cultures and finding again sort of a healing process for some of the experiences and some of the pain that people have felt in this country, not feeling sometimes a part of it.
Well, I think what we found interesting is that throughout our history, we've always had a really broad selection of works by composers from all walks of life, different, many different races, many different cultural backgrounds, different sexual orientations. One of our big focuses for this year, well, at least was a project that is focused, inspired by the poems on Angel Island. Now, these poems were left behind by detainees during the Chinese Exclusion Act years. So, in the late 1800s, the US passed their first discriminatory immigration act, and it was targeted to prevent Chinese from coming to this country. It was the first time that had ever been passed at that point. Up until then, people could come to this country freely. And that law was not completely removed until like the mid 1960s. So it was on the books for a really long time. And if you can imagine, like in the 1870s, Idaho was 28% Chinese. And then, but by 1960, there were still only 200,000 Chinese in America.
Mm.
So it really was a huge deterrent. And many of the people who tried to come here, they were processed through Angel Island, which is like the Ellis Island of the West. And a lot of the Chinese immigrants were then kept there in these detention centers indefinitely. They didn't, a lot of times they had no idea when they might be released or if they would be sent back. Many of them were sent back for various reasons. And a lot of times that would have been just a crushing blow because they would have spent their life fortunes and many times borrowed money to get here. And then having to be sent back, it's very difficult to imagine how they would have survived. So while these people were detained on the island, in their frustration, many of them began to carve basically graffiti into the walls of the detention center, but being Chinese, it turned into poems. So there were over 100 poems discovered when they began to, at first, to tear apart the detention center, and then because they began discovering the poems, to renovate it.
Hmm.
So these poems are the source of inspiration for a big project that we were supposed to do in October, which would feature the quartet with a local vocal ensemble, Volti, and the composer is Huang Ruo, who is a Chinese American composer. And we would be using the premiere would have taken place on the island itself. So this presentation of this piece addressing the issues of immigration, which obviously are heavily still in play today. A lot of the folks who are coming across the border from the south are being detained, and there's actually still a tremendous amount of horrific events happening there, which are actually getting swept under the rug in light of everything else that's going on.
Thank you for that. And next time we're going to be talking to Charlton about San Francisco and the soul of San Francisco, and where, as an arts community, we may be able to go, and the role that Del Sol Quartet can play in that.